Aaron, your probably most infamous film has to be Jennifer's Body, I would say. Released in
Yeah.
2009, at a time when horror comedies were becoming increasingly popular. So how did you
Mm.
approach blending horror and comedy in the film, and what influenced your decision to take that tone with this?
I mean, the tone was on the page from the
Mm.
very first time I read the script, and it's one of the few scripts where I could imagine genuinely scary sequences intermingling with actual real laughter, like, and so for me, like, I was laughing till I was crying reading the script, and I felt a sense of visual possibility
Mm.
with the horror of it. And I love those kind of movies. Like, I grew up watching movies like Heathers and
Mm.
American Werewolf in London and The Howling, and movies that you're laughing as you're afraid.
Mhm.
And I think that the two things, being afraid and laughing, are actually very close to one another within an audience. And so it's a very tough tone to execute, and
Mm.
it took some time in the cutting room to really kind of nail um the balance of
Mm.
of humor and drama and horror. um but I definitely found myself drawn to the movie because it was exactly the kind of movie I would want to see if I were a young person.
Yeah, this was kind of perfect for me when I saw. I think I was probably about 13, 14. So yeah, you're at your
Uh-huh.
friends' sleepovers, you're watching horror comedies. Like this was like perfect sort of timing for me. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's
Hmm.
kind of stuck with me since.
Oh, I love that. That's so great. Hmm.
Also, obviously, this film has gained a significant following and is
Hmm.
often discussed in context of feminist and queer
Hmm.
cinema. How do you feel about the film's evolving reputation and like the continuous impact it's had on these communities?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so happy that the movie found its audience, even if it found it, 10, 15 years too late.
Yeah.
Because to me, those are a lot of the movies I love, like movies that have grown in stature because they needed to be discovered. They begged to be discovered.
Mm.
And the thing about Jennifer's Body to me is it's a very kind of prismatic, um, really, I think, ambitious exploration of young people, of female friendship, of the the notion of female empowerment as its own kind of prison or trap, the
Yeah.
notion of women's bodies being literal battlegrounds
Mm.
upon which other forces battle. And so I always felt that was in the script, that was in the movie, but it wasn't something I was making a big statement about because it's a part of who I am. It's a part of what interests me. And I'm so interested by the idea that the queer community has embraced the film, if only because it too was never meant to be something front and center in the storytelling. It was meant to simply be embedded in the life of these characters
Yeah.
who come from the Midwest of the United States and who aren't particularly politically progressive or identity based, certainly at the time that we made the film. And so in some ways, I hope that by making a kind of ordinary statement about the presence of romantic longing, queer expression in the film, it's a way of saying this has always been part of our culture. It's not, I'm not pointing to something new. I'm not
Mm.
making something new. I'm actually just pointing out something that's already there and already has a very rich life and history of its own.
Yeah, I think it's like you say, it's you sort of you write what you know, you sort of direct what you know, and I think your voice is prevalent. Like you say, these are issues and everything that a lot of young women sort of deal with, you know, in high school life or whatever it may be. So though it's not forefront and center, like, but we can all relate to that, or we, you know, we have those female friendships, and that makes it really tangible for myself, at least. And I think that's what stands the test of time. And you know, we're still talking about it now in 2024, and it's had that sort of cult resurgence because people have gone back and thought, actually, this is quite, you know, feminist kind of queer, kind of progressive film.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And very outrageous and funny. I mean, like, and smart and sensitively acted by all of the actors. So it's like, I'm very proud of the film. I'm glad people are finding it again.
Yeah, you should be proud of it, I think. I think it's a really great film.
Thank you.
Just on top of that sort of cult thing, I have to mention the poster, because to me, that's what I saw first. The poster to me in itself is iconic, you know. Seeing Megan on the sort of desk, I thought that was just amazing. Did you sort of think of that consciously, going in knowing that would be kind of iconographic and like cult-like with that?
That's so interesting because, in fact, that was probably the biggest issue around the movie, was the messaging of the marketing, because there was quite a bit of marketing that I felt failed the film, or didn't adequately express the film. And I think because the film, for better or for worse, was titled Jennifer's Body, it became so much about literally the notion of selling Megan Fox as the reason to see the movie. And she's incredible in the movie, don't get me wrong. I love her in the movie and I loved working with her. But the notion of this deep but very toxic friendship between Megan Fox's character and Amanda Seyfried's character, that's the heart of the movie. And none of the materials came close to expressing that this was a movie about a friendship, and or a friendship gone wrong, a friendship that needs saving. And so that was a really interesting experience for me, to see how quickly the marketing wanted or needed, depending on how you look at it, to simplify the message of the film, or the meaning of the film. And, you know, it's just something to keep in mind, how difficult it is to communicate in a single image or a 2-minute trailer, here's what the movie is. And so I really saw with a film like that, that is so tonally ambitious, how hard it is to really communicate accurately the spirit of the film.
Yeah, I mean, for better or for worse, it's stuck in my brain.
Good.
Yeah. And you can recognize it, you know, you see it come up on, like, you know, top 100 films, whatever, and you see that poster and you just, you know, immediately, without reading the title.
Was that the poster that the tagline was Hell Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a pretty good tagline. Hell Yes is pretty funny. But it's just the it kind of made me sad that Amanda wasn't in a lot of those materials, because she's the main character of the movie. You know.
I guess again, it's that 2009 era. It's like, you know,
totally
culture and who's relevant at the moment, so you kind of have to play into that. So as part of this, Karen, we've had some questions submitted from one of our young programmers, Holly Elms, who is clearly a big fan of Jennifer's Body. And she just asks, obviously Jennifer is such a strong and unconventional female character, particularly in the landscape of 2009. So how did you go about developing her character, and what was your goal in portraying her as someone who defies traditional gender roles?
That's an interesting question. I think for me, what I loved about the character and thought was so refreshing was that she just largely didn't care about what people thought about her. And while of course that gets punctured throughout the film, and we realize she does have vulnerability, and she does have a sense of awareness about her stature within school, I think I just liked her lack of fear of other people, of boys and men. She wasn't afraid of her own sexual power. She saw it as an interesting plus. She was interested in pleasure. All of that to me was like, oh, this is such a great character, you know? And so I really wanted to embrace the character and never, ever seem like I was judging her.
Yeah, I think that definitely comes through. I mean, I did a rewatch and I think, you know, I wish I was that kind of confident and sort of outspoken at that time, because I definitely
wasn't. Totally. Oh yeah. No, I mean, she's a very and I mean, she is so outspoken, she is so confident, and in a way that is literally what makes her monstrous to people. She's not living in that narrow lane of keeping quiet and not making waves. And the idea that once she is sort of undead and becomes truly monstrous, it only amplifies that sense that she doesn't really give a shit about anybody or anything. That's what I think was really interesting about the film, is that, like a lot of great horror films, you find yourself celebrating the monster, and trying to find yourself in that expression.
Yeah, we always try and, I think, humanize a lot of villains and stuff, but sometimes people are just the way they are.
Yeah, it's so true.
So obviously in 2009 we're sort of getting the rise of social media and online fan communities. How did you anticipate these platforms would influence the film's reception and engagement with the audiences at the time?
Well, you know, what I learned early and quickly was that a lot of these platforms are their foundational energies were founded in misogyny. And so the kind of anonymous culture that could lash out at the film, lash out at Megan, lash out at Diablo Cody. There was now this new way to have a voice without ever having to show your face and ever take responsibility or be accountable for your words. And so I really got to see how quickly there was this aggression and hostility toward the movie, but especially toward Megan and to some degree Diablo. And it was wild, because it really showed me how these platforms, while they have the opportunity to bring people together and to allow for an interesting and vigorous exchange of ideas, it can very quickly just devolve into a lot of the just, you know, whatever, the grunts of trolls, and so that was really interesting to see so quickly, and experience it so viscerally with my own film, particularly with Twitter, and so it was interesting to be at that cusp. When the film came out, it really revealed kind of what those platforms primary animating energy is.
It'd be interesting to see what the response would have been if you made that film literally in 20,
now,
like with no changes.
Oh, totally.
How would that be perceived? I'd be intrigued.
Totally. I know it might be different, you know, but at the time it was really like an early gathering place for just a lot of like angry, resentful, confused, juvenile, asinine energies.
Oh, it's still out there, Karen, trust me.
Oh yeah. No, it's still there. It's still there. It's still there. But I've never, it's funny because that experience really convinced me that it wasn't, I wouldn't have a home there. Like I didn't, so I've never really engaged ever with social media. I don't have any accounts of my own, and I I just don't know that it would benefit me to be doing that to my mental health.
Yeah, I think that's wise. I think we should all do that, really, have some time out from it.
Yeah.
So my last question for you then, Karyn, is do you have any advice for some young filmmakers who are interested in playing with the genre?
Yeah, I mean, I think the good news is that genre filmmaking remains a really vital part of the films that get made and get seen right now. You know, I think people want crime thrillers and horror movies and action movies and sci-fi. They people want to know that they're walking into a house and it has a roof and it has windows and it has a shape, and that's what genre often can at least initially offer an audience, is a sense of here's what you think you're going to get. And so if that's the case, I think for those of us who make those kind of films, it's really important to say, here's what you think you're going to get, and you're going to get something else or something different. And there'll be potentially a departure from what you expect of this story. And in landing at that, it's really important to ask yourself, what is the story I'm telling? What is the most fundamental emotional thing I'm trying to evoke by using this kind of story to tell, to you know, sort of express that emotional spectrum. So I just think it's really important to, on the one hand, understand the genre that you're playing in, but then also really have a sense of when it could be important to depart from what's familiar.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I love that kind of playing around with genre, and you know, the world in which you set it in kind of sort of informs what, you know, the characters may do, or the dialogue. Like you say, you break away from that. Let's blend two genres. Let's, you know, do a horror comedy, you know.
Yeah.
Give us something refreshing. But I think, yeah, genre is something we really need in cinema. I think it's pivotal and gets bums in seats. And
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Karyn. I really enjoyed talking to you. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. This was really great, and good luck to the program and to all of the people in it. I hope it's been a good one.